Trigger warning. This episode contains graphic discussions of child sexual abuse, grooming, dismemberment, murder, and the alleged involvement of a celebrity. We also discuss alleged failures by law enforcement and family members. This is not easy content. If you are sensitive to topics involving violence against children, please protect your peace and skip this episode. Your mental health comes first. There is no shame in stepping away. But if you can stay, if you can hold space for the hard questions, I believe this conversation matters because somewhere right now, another child is in a similar situation, and the adults around them are looking away. Before we go any further, I need to make something crystal clear. Everything discussed in this episode is alleged. David Burke, known as D4vd, has entered a plea of not guilty to all charges. The information presented here comes from court documents, media reports, and public statements, none of which have been proven in a court of law. We are discussing allegations, not facts. We are asking questions, not making accusations. The purpose of this episode is not to declare guilt or innocence, but to examine the system failures, the unanswered questions, and the patterns that allowed a tragedy to happen. Please keep this in mind as you listen. I have been sitting with this story for days, weeks really. Ever since the headlines first broke, I have not been able to shake the feeling that something is deeply wrong. Not just with what allegedly happened to a 14-year-old girl named Celeste Rivas Hernandez, but with how we are being told to understand it. A young pop star, a missing child, a body found in a Tesla, dismemberment, Hello Kitty slippers, a coroner who waited months to release findings, a police department that took over 7 months to make an arrest, a mother who allegedly knew her daughter was with an older man and did nothing, a brother who says he tried to report it, rumors of money changing hands between the mother and the alleged predator. Every time I read a new headline, I feel more confused, not less. Every time I think I understand what happened, another detail emerges that does not fit. And I keep coming back to one question, a question that has been circling in my mind like a bird that cannot find a place to land. What if we are being sold a simple story because the truth is too messy and too painful for anyone to want to look at? What if the young pop star is not the only monster here? What if the system failed Celeste long before she ever got into that Tesla? What if the people who were supposed to protect her, her family, the police, the coroner, the media, all played a role in her death, not because they wanted her to die, but because they looked away, when looking away was easier than acting? Today on Life Points with Ronda, I want to walk through this case the way I would talk to a close friend, not as a detective, not as a journalist, not as an expert, as a human being trying to understand how a child ended up dead and how so many people, family, police, the system, seemed to look the other way until it was too late. This is not an investigation. This is a reflection. This is me, Ronda, sitting with you, asking the questions that keep me up at night, and I hope you will sit with me. If you are ready, let's begin. Before we go any further, I need to ask you to do something. And I don't ask lightly. If you are a parent, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a teacher, a coach, or anyone who loves a child, listen to this episode not for entertainment, but for awareness. The details of this case are brutal. They will stay with you, but they matter. Because somewhere right now, another child is in a similar situation. Another child is running away. Another child is in the DMs of an adult who should not be talking to them. Another child is living with someone who should not have access to them. And the adults around that child are looking away because it is uncomfortable, because they don't want to get involved, because they are afraid of being wrong, because they have been told to mind their own business. Do not look away. That is my call to action. Look at this case. Let it break your heart. And then let it change how you see the children in your life. Also, please subscribe to Life Points with Ronda and share this episode. We need more voices asking the hard questions, not to sensationalize, but to prevent the next tragedy. Now, let me tell you what has been reported, what has been alleged, and what keeps me up at night about this case. Meet Celeste, the girl behind the headline. Before we talk about the alleged crime, the alleged cover up, the alleged failures, I want to talk about Celeste. Because in all the headlines, in all the speculation, in all the arguments about who is guilty and who is innocent, we risk forgetting that a 14-year-old girl is dead. And she was not just a headline, she was a person. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was 14 years old. She lived in Lake Elsinore, California, a city about 70 miles southeast of Los Angeles. Neighbors remember her as a girl with big, beautiful curls, walking home from the corner store with her backpack. She loved Hello Kitty. She loved music. She was trying to figure out who she was, like every teenager does. But something was wrong at home. We don't know the full story. We may never know. But we know that Celeste ran away. Multiple times. Over nearly 2 years, she kept leaving home. Sometimes she came back. Sometimes she didn't. And somewhere along the way, in the chaos of being a child without stability, she connected online with a musician. Her family says she was vulnerable. They say she was manipulated, and they are not wrong. But here is the question I cannot stop asking. If she was so vulnerable, why was no one protecting her? Why did it take so long for anyone to sound the alarm? And why, when the alarm was finally sounded, did no one listen? Her brother, Matthew Rivas, has been very vocal since her death. He has shared alleged Instagram chats online that he claims point directly to David's involvement. In one message, Celeste allegedly said David was waiting till she was 18 to get married. That is not the language of a child who is being held against her will. That is the language of a child who has been groomed to believe she is in a relationship. That is the language of a child who does not understand that she is being preyed upon. But the brother says he tried to report the relationship to LAPD. He says he gave them information. He says nothing happened. So let me ask you, if a 13-year-old girl is living with a 19-year-old man and her brother reports it to the police, why is she not immediately removed? Why is there no intervention? Why is the man not questioned? Why is the child not placed in protective custody? The answer, I am afraid, is that no one cared enough to act. Not the family, not the police, not the system. And Celeste kept running away because she was not safe at home and no one was making her safe anywhere else. The musician, a star with a secret. Now let's talk about the man at the center of this case. His name is David Burke. He is 21 years old. He is from the Houston area. He grew up in a military family, moving around the world. By all accounts, he was a quiet kid who found his voice through music. He started posting lo-fi tracks online to soundtrack his gaming videos. One of his songs, Romantic Homicide, went viral on TikTok. The irony of that title, given what he is now accused of, is not lost on me. He signed a deal with Interscope Records. He played Coachella. He bought a $3 million mansion in the Hollywood Hills. He developed an alter ego named IT4MI, the Japanese word for pain, which he called the evil version of me. By all external measures, he was a success story, a kid from nowhere who made it big. Influencers loved him. Fans tattooed his lyrics on their bodies. The music industry embraced him. But behind the scenes, allegedly, there was a secret, a 14-year-old girl named Celeste, and an alleged sexual relationship that began when she was just 12 or 13 years old. Prosecutors say that David began communicating with Celeste online in late 2022 when she was 11 or 12 and he was 17. By early 2024, they had met in person. She was 13. He was 18. The alleged sexual abuse began around that time. Here is what I need you to understand. Even if the murder charges are dropped, even if David Burke is found not guilty of killing Celeste, the alleged grooming is still there. A 17-year-old has no business having a secret online relationship with an 11-year-old. An 18-year-old has no business having a sexual relationship with a 13-year-old. That is not a young love story. That is a crime. But, and this is where it gets complicated, the alleged grooming does not automatically make him a murderer. He could be guilty of one and innocent of the other. We have to hold that distinction. We cannot let our disgust at the grooming blind us to the possibility that someone else killed Celeste. And here is where my doubts begin. The alleged grooming pattern, how predators use fame. I want to pause here and talk about something bigger than this case, because David Burke is not the first celebrity to be accused of grooming a child fan, and he will not be the last. There is a pattern. It is well documented, and it goes like this. A young, rising star has a dedicated online following. Many of his fans are teenagers. Some are even younger. He engages with them in DMs, in comment sections, in private servers. He makes them feel special. He makes them feel seen. He tells them they are different from the other fans, more mature, more understanding, more worthy of his attention. For the child on the receiving end, this feels like a dream come true. Their idol, the person whose music they listen to on repeat, whose face is on their phone wallpaper, is talking to them directly, personally. They feel chosen. They feel honored. They feel like they have a secret, special connection that no one else can understand. This is the grooming gateway. It does not start with sex. It starts with attention, with flattery, with the slow, patient construction of a bond that the child will protect at all costs, because losing that connection would mean losing the most exciting, validating thing in their life. Allegedly, this is exactly what happened with Celeste. She was young, she was vulnerable, she was running away from a troubled home, and she found someone who appeared to offer her safety, excitement, and love. She did not see him as a predator. She saw him as her boyfriend. She allegedly told her brother he was waiting till she was 18 to get married. That is not the language of someone who knows she is being abused. That is the language of someone who has been groomed to believe she is in a real, committed relationship. And here's the part that breaks my heart. Celeste was not the first. She will not be the last. Right now, somewhere in the world, another young fan is in the DMs of another rising star. Another predator is using fame as a weapon. Another child is being told she is special and mature for her age. And the adults around her, distracted, exhausted, or simply unaware, are not paying attention. This is not just about David. This is about the system of fandom that gives famous people unchecked access to vulnerable children. This is about the parents who do not monitor their children's devices because they trust their kids, or because they do not want to seem controlling. This is about the social media platforms that prioritize engagement over safety. This is about a culture that treats fan obsession as harmless, when it can be the first step toward tragedy. I am not saying every celebrity who talks to fans is a predator. I am saying we need to stop being naive. A 20-year-old man has no business having a private, ongoing conversation with a 13-year-old girl. There is no innocent explanation for that. And when we see it, we need to call it out. Not when the child is dead, but when the first DM is sent. The Tesla, evidence that makes no sense. Let me walk you through the physical evidence, or what has been reported of it. Celeste's body was found on September 8th, 2025, in the front trunk of a Tesla registered to David Burke. The car had been abandoned in the Hollywood Hills. A tow truck driver noticed a foul smell and opened the trunk. Inside, sealed in a zippered body bag, were human remains. The arms and legs had been dismembered. 2 fingers had been cut off from the left hand. The body was severely decomposed, and Celeste was still wearing her Hello Kitty slippers. Now, let me ask you the question that has been bothering me since I first read this detail. Why would a killer, especially a wealthy, connected killer with resources, leave a body in his own car? Think about it. If you are David and you have just allegedly killed a child, you have options. You have money. You have a record label. You have managers and lawyers and publicists. You have people who could help you dispose of a body in ways that would never be traced back to you. You could drive the car to the desert. You could burn it. You could have it crushed. You could pay someone to disappear it forever. Instead, the car was abandoned in a public place, the Hollywood Hills, an area with million-dollar homes, security cameras, and nosy neighbors, where it sat for over a week before a tow truck driver found it. The body was left in a sealed bag, which contained the smell, but did not hide the fact that a body was there. This does not look like the work of a calculating murderer. This looks like the work of someone who wanted the body to be found, eventually, but not immediately. Or someone who did not have access to the car after the body was placed in it. Or someone who was trying to frame D4vd. I am not saying David is innocent. I am saying that the physical evidence is bizarre, and bizarre evidence should make us pause, not rush to judgment. The coroner. Months of silence that keep screaming. Let's talk about the coroner, because this is where my distrust of the system really begins. Celeste's body was found in September 2025. The autopsy report was not finalized until December 9th, 2025. That is 3 months, even with decomposition and dismemberment. That is a long time. But then, and this is the part that really bothers me, the report was sealed by court order at LAPD's request. It remained under seal until April 22nd, 2026. That is over 4 additional months. 7 months total from discovery to public release. Why? LAPD. Detective Joshua Byers filed a declaration arguing that releasing findings could endanger the lives of witnesses and compromise the investigation. On its face, that sounds reasonable. But the chief medical examiner, Dr. Odi Ukupo, publicly questioned the sealing. He said he does not believe sealing reports helps investigations. He only complied because he was compelled by court order. When the report was finally released, Ukupo said, "After several months, I am grateful this information can now be released. It is unfathomable they have had to wait this long to learn what happened to their daughter." A coroner questioning the police. A coroner saying it is unfathomable that the family had to wait. That is not normal. That is a red flag. What changed between December and April? What information was LAPD trying to suppress? What witnesses were they trying to protect? Or pressure? We don't know. But the delay itself is suspicious. And the coroner's public statement suggests that even he had doubts about how the investigation was being handled. LAPD. The 7 months that possibly could have saved her. Now let's talk about the LAPD, and I'm not going to be polite about this. The Los Angeles Police Department has a long, ugly history of mishandling cases involving missing children. They have a history of treating runaways as delinquents rather than potential victims. They have a history of moving slowly when the suspect is rich and famous. And in this case, those failures may have cost Celeste her life. Let me walk you through the timeline of LAPD's alleged failures. Celeste was reported missing multiple times over nearly 2 years. Her family had information. Her brother says he tried to give it to police. He says he told them about D4vd. And yet, LAPD did not act aggressively. They did not issue Amber Alerts. They did not track her phone. They did not interview David early on. They did not search his properties when there was probable cause. If they had, if they had gone to his home in early 2025, when Celeste was still alive, could they have found her? Could they have pulled her out of that situation before she was killed? I believe the answer is yes, and that makes me furious. Then, after her body was found, it took LAPD 7 months to arrest David. 7 months. During that time, he was walking free. He was posting on social media about cryptocurrency and his music. He was living in his Hollywood Hills mansion. He was allegedly transferring ownership of his Texas homes to a trust under his mother's name, a move that looks like asset protection. Was he under surveillance during those 7 months? Were his communications monitored? Was he restricted from traveling? Could he have fled the country, destroyed evidence, or harmed another child? We don't know. But the fact that LAPD took 7 months to make an arrest, in a case where the victim's body was found in the suspect's car, is inexcusable. And here is the hard truth that no one wants to say out loud. If Davi had been a poor black man from South Central with no fame and no lawyer, he would have been arrested within days. The celebrity protection system is real. The rich and famous get the benefit of the doubt. They get the thorough investigation that takes months. The rest of us get handcuffs. I don't trust LAPD, not because I am biased, because their track record speaks for itself, and because in this case, their delays may have allowed a killer, whoever that killer is, to remain free. The family of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Now, I have to talk about something that is deeply uncomfortable, something that many people do not want to talk about because it feels like blaming the victim's family. But we cannot understand this case without facing it. Celeste's family allegedly knew she was with David Burke. They allegedly knew for months, and they did not stop it. Let me walk you through what has been alleged and what court documents have revealed. The brother, Matthew Rivas, Celeste's brother, has been very vocal since her death. He has shared alleged Instagram chats online that he claims point directly to David's involvement. In one message, Celeste allegedly said David was waiting till she was 18 to get married. Her brother told NBCLA that the then 13-year-old was attending a movie with the Houston musician when she first disappeared. So the family had knowledge from the very beginning. The brother allegedly tried to sound the alarm, and yet nothing happened. LAPD allegedly did not act on his report. But also, and this is critical, why did the brother's warning not lead to the family taking more aggressive action themselves? Why did they not go to the media sooner? Why did they not hire a private investigator? Why did they not camp outside Burke's home? Why did it take nearly 2 years and her death for his voice to be heard? The mother, Celeste's mother, reportedly told investigators that her daughter had been involved with someone named David, so she knew her 13-year-old daughter was involved with an older man named David. She knew he was older. She did not investigate. She did not go to police with that name. She did not demand a background check. She sat on that information while her daughter continued to run away, and eventually, while her daughter lived with him. The money. This is the darkest rumor. Online reports, unconfirmed but persistent and widely circulating, allege that David Burke gave Celeste's mother money to allow Celeste to hang out with him. There are even claims that he paid her friends. This is not proven. It is alleged. But if true, it would fundamentally change the narrative. It would mean that the family was not just passive, they were complicit. It would mean that a mother allegedly accepted payment to look the other way, while a child was being groomed. That is not failure to protect. That is active betrayal. Living with him. Court documents state that Celeste resided with and had recurring access to David. That means she was living with him, not just visiting, not just occasional sleepovers, living with him. As a 13 and 14-year-old girl, she was allegedly residing in the home of a 19 and 20-year-old man. Her family allegedly knew. Let that sink in. A child was living with an adult male. Her family knew, and no one called the police. No one filed for emergency custody. No one went to the media. No one camped outside his mansion. They allegedly knew, and they allegedly let it continue. The devastation now. The family's attorney said they are experiencing profound emotional pain after learning the horrible and gruesome details of how she died. Celeste's parents, Jesus and Mercedes, attended the first hearing. They are grieving. I do not question that. But grief does not erase accountability. The question remains, what did they know? When did they know it? And what did they do about it? If the mother took money, if even a single dollar exchanged hands, then she is not just a grieving parent. She is an alleged participant in the exploitation of her own child. And that changes everything. I am not blaming the family lightly. I am not ignoring that they lost a daughter. But we have to ask, who failed Celeste first? Was it LAPD for not acting on the brother's tip? Was it the mother for allegedly accepting payment? Was it both? And why did it take nearly a full year for the autopsy report to be made public? The rabbit hole. Who else was in the Tesla? Let's go further down the rabbit hole, because the more I think about this case, the more questions I have. The Tesla was registered to David Burke. But who else had access to that car? Burke was on tour during parts of 2025. His Tesla could have been parked at his home, at a studio, or at an airport parking lot. Multiple people, assistants, drivers, friends, even strangers, could have had access to the keys. Was the Tesla ever reported stolen? If not, why not? If Burke knew the car was missing, why did he not contact police? Or did he not know because he was not the one using it? The car was abandoned in the Hollywood Hills, a popular area for dumping items. Was it caught on any security cameras? Surely a neighborhood like that has ring doorbells, traffic cams, or business surveillance. Did LAPD pull that footage? If so, why have we not seen it? If not, why not? The body was in a zippered bag. Where did that bag come from? Could it be traced to a purchase? Did Burke buy it, or was it already in the car? The dismemberment. Medical examiners say it was done with a sharp object, possibly a saw or large knife. That is messy, loud, and requires significant effort. Did anyone hear or see anything? Was there a secondary crime scene? A bathroom, a garage, a storage unit that was never found? The blue plastic fragments embedded in her wounds. What are they? Could they be from a cutting tool, a knife with a blue handle, or plastic from a container? Or could they be from something else entirely? A broken toy, a piece of furniture, something she was near before she died? The coroner's report has not clarified, and without clarity, we are left speculating. The missing fingers. 2 fingers were cut off. Why? In many murder cases, fingers are removed to prevent identification through fingerprints. But here, the rest of the body was identifiable. Why remove only 2 fingers? Could those fingers have held evidence, like defensive wounds or DNA under the fingernails? The Hello Kitty slippers. This detail haunts me. She was still wearing her slippers. Does a cold-blooded killer dismember a child, but leave her favorite slippers on? Or does that suggest someone who cared about her, in a twisted way, or someone who was not thinking clearly? The uncomfortable possibility, killing, dismembering, bagging, transporting, and dumping a body is a monumental task. It usually involves more than one person, or a pre-planned location, or prior experience. Burke, a young musician with no criminal record, seems an unlikely candidate for such a brutal, organized act, which raises the possibility someone else did the killing and dismemberment and then used Burke's car to frame him. If that is true, then the real killer is still out there, and LAPD's focus on Burke may have let them escape. The alleged cover-up. What LAPD didn't do. I want to go back to the LAPD, because the more I learn about this case, the more convinced I become that their failures, not just their delays, are central to understanding how Celeste died. Let me list what LAPD allegedly did not do. They did not act on the brothers' report. Matthew Rivas says he told LAPD about David. He gave them a name, he gave them information, and according to him, nothing happened. No follow-up, no interview, no search warrant, no attempt to locate Celeste. They did not issue Amber Alerts. Celeste was a missing child. She was 13 years old. She was known to be with an adult male. These are textbook criteria for an Amber Alert, but none were issued. Why? Was it because she was a runaway? There is a dangerous bias in law enforcement that treats runaways as willful delinquents rather than potential victims. That bias may have cost Celeste her life. They did not track her phone. In 2025, law enforcement can ping a phone. They can locate a missing child within minutes if they have the legal authority. Did LAPD try? Did they even ask? We don't know, but if they had, they could have found Celeste and possibly rescued her, long before she ended up in that Tesla. They did not interview David early on. If the family had given them his name, why did they not bring him in for questioning? Why did they not search his properties? Why did they not demand to see Celeste? The answer, I suspect, is that they did not take the case seriously because the suspect was famous. They assumed he would be represented by lawyers. They assumed the investigation would be difficult. So they did nothing. And while they did nothing, Celeste was allegedly being abused and eventually killed. They did not surveil him after her death. For 7 months between the discovery of her body and his arrest, David was free. Was he followed? Were his communications monitored? Was he restricted from leaving the country? If not, why not? He could have fled. He could have destroyed evidence. He could have harmed someone else. The LAPD took a massive gamble, and we still don't know if it paid off. They did not release the autopsy findings promptly. The report was finalized in December but remained sealed until April at LAPD's request. That is over 4 months of the family waiting in agony. The coroner publicly questioned this decision. He said it was unfathomable that the family had to wait so long. And yet, LAPD insisted on the seal. What were they hiding? What were they protecting? Was it really about witness safety? Or was it about controlling the narrative? I am not saying LAPD is corrupt. I am saying they made choices, and those choices had consequences. Every week that passed without an arrest was a week that David could have destroyed evidence, intimidated witnesses, or fled. Every week that passed without the autopsy findings being released was a week that the family could not grieve properly. Every week that passed without a serious investigation was a week that justice was delayed. And in this case, delay may have been denial. Celeste is dead. We cannot bring her back, but we can ask why LAPD did not act sooner, and we can demand that they answer. The narrative. Who wants you to believe the simple story? Let me ask you something. Who benefits from the story that David is a monster? Full stop, end of story, no complexities, no questions, no other suspects. The music industry benefits. They signed him, they promoted him, they made millions off him. If he is convicted, they can distance themselves and say, "We had no idea." They can avoid liability for any role they may have played in enabling his alleged behavior. They can issue a statement expressing shock and sadness and move on to the next young star. If the truth is more complicated, if someone else was involved, if the family played a role, if LAPD failed, they would rather not investigate. The simple story protects their bottom line. And the prosecution benefits. A high-profile celebrity murder conviction would be a career-defining trophy. The district attorney would get headlines, accolades, and political capital. They have no incentive to look for alternative suspects. They have no incentive to dig into the family's alleged involvement. They have no incentive to question LAPD's delays. Their job is to convict David Burke, and the simple story makes that easier. The media benefits. Sensational headlines sell. Pop star murderer gets clicks. Teen idol kills child gets shares. Weird case with confusing evidence and potential family complicity does not. The media is in the business of attention, not truth. They will always choose the simpler, more dramatic narrative. And in this case, that narrative is that David is a monster. And we, the public, we love a villain. We love to hate. We love to feel righteous anger. It is cathartic to point a finger and say, "He did it. He is evil. Lock him up." It is much harder to sit with ambiguity, to admit that we don't know, to consider the possibility that the system failed, that the family failed, that the police failed, and that the real killer might still be free. We prefer the simple story because it makes us feel like justice is possible. Follow the money, follow the attention. Whoever benefits from a simple, damning narrative is the one who has the least interest in finding a complex truth. What I believe and what I don't know. So let me be honest with you. I do not know if David Burke killed Celeste. I do not know if he dismembered her body. I do not know if he placed her in that Tesla. I do not know if he acted alone or with others. I do not know if the family was complicit or merely negligent. I do not know if the money rumors are true. I do not know why the coroner's report was sealed for months. I do not know why LAPD took so long to make an arrest. What I do know is that the evidence is bizarre. The delays are suspicious. The coroner's public statement suggests even he had doubts. The family's alleged knowledge and inaction are deeply troubling, and the simple narrative, "Pop star kills child," feels too neat for a case this messy. What I do know is that if police had acted sooner, if the family had spoken up sooner, Celeste might still be alive. That is not a conclusion. It is a question that will haunt this case forever. What I do know is that Celeste was failed by almost every adult around her. First, by the adults who should have protected her at home. Then, by the adults who knew she was with an older man and did nothing. Then, by the police who did not act. Then, by a coroner's office that took months. Then, by a media landscape that would rather sell us a simple story than do the hard work of finding the truth. And what I do know is that Celeste Rivas Hernandez was 14 years old. She had big, beautiful curls. She loved Hello Kitty. She was trying to figure out who she was, and she deserved to grow up. She deserved to be safe. She deserved adults who would not look away. We owe it to her to keep asking the hard questions, to keep doubting, to keep demanding transparency, not because we want to see a pop star go free, because we want the truth, all of it, even the parts that are uncomfortable, even the parts that might implicate people we want to see as victims, even the parts that make us question our own assumptions. Rest in power, Celeste. You deserved better. I don't have tidy answers for you. I don't have a neat conclusion. This case is messy, and messy cases don't wrap up in 60 minutes with a bow. But I have questions, and I hope you do too. I hope you will keep asking them. I hope you will share this episode. I hope you will tag it, hashtag Justice for Celeste, and hashtag Life Points with Ronda. I hope you will keep the pressure on investigators to look at everyone involved, not just the easiest target. And I hope you will look at the children in your life differently. Pay attention. Ask questions. Do not look away. Because somewhere right now, another child is in a similar situation, and the adults around them are looking away. Do not be one of those adults. Share this episode. Keep asking the hard questions. Keep demanding answers. And if you need tools to protect your own peace while navigating this heavy world, I wrote a book filled with positive affirmations and reflections. You can find it on Amazon and later on my website. It's called Still Here, Getting Through. When the world feels like too much, and it will help you stay grounded when the news feels overwhelming. Subscribe to Life Points with Rhonda. And join me on my other shows, Love, Lies, and Life Lessons, The Wealth Reset Pod, and Lady Aurelia Ravenshade Presents, for more deep conversations about truth, healing, and justice. I'm Rhonda. Keep your eyes open. The truth is rarely the first story you hear.